Repoussage.
So
Repoussage.
what they're doing for Paris 2024 is having a repoussage heat where it's only automatic qualifiers after the first round. There's no time qualifiers, and then the time qualifiers would run in a separate heat in order to get through to the semis. They're not doing this in the 100. They're not doing this stuff in the longer events, but it would just be like, was it 200, 200 to 1500. Um, I don't understand the need for it. What do you think of it?
So to kind of clear it out, basically laid out, imagine there'll be 3 heats of a 1500. They would take the top 5 in each heat. They go on to the semifinals, and then they wait. And then there'll be a rerun for everyone that didn't qualify, and then they take the top 5 again. So there's basically you get a play-in game if you don't get the big Q. If you just have to do it again to get a big Q to qualify into the semis and then ultimately to the finals. So
Yeah.
there's been more racing. My big thought about this, I know I tried to explain this to you in the airport, and you were kind of like, you told me just to shut up. But I'm going to say it now on the pod.
I don't think
There
I
could
said
be
that.
you kind of like, you're like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, I could have said
There was a
that.
little bit, there was a little bit of attitude. There's a little tude.
I was like, I'm sort of done with track for the next couple minutes. Can we talk about anything else? I didn't tell you
But
to
hear me
shut
out.
up though. That's strong.
Hear me out. What you were talking about. I was saying, like, all right, if you're in a hard heat, say you're in a heat that you know the odds of getting top 5 are not in your favor. There is no incentive to try to get top 5. You would just be like, all right, I'm going to jog this, let someone else take the top 5 spots, and I'm going to be more fresh going into this new play-in round that I can just be the freshest legs on the track for that because I didn't put a hard effort in my prelim with everyone else. And then also, there could be people who, once they know they're out of it, there's no reason to fight for 6th, basically. You're just going to be like, oh, shut it down. So there's going to be a weird situation when a breakaway happens. Not that 1500 is really the only place that could be a breakaway, but like maybe not breakaway. But when you know you're not in it anymore, there's no incentive of running through the line. You just kind of like, all right, turn it off, shut it down. So you might see a little bit of a weird tanking going on in the first round of Worlds and of Olympics to like have a better advantage in the play-in prelim, which is kind of fun.
I don't.
Tanking, that'll be interesting, you know.
Well, I don't know what happens. DQs, all starts. Do they get to go through again? Because I guess if that's the goal, to preserve favorites to give them a second chance, I guess that makes more sense. But also on the flip side, what if you're in a really tough heat and you're the first one out, and then you have to go run again? Your chances, especially in the 1500, of being sharp for the semis are real low. So I don't
Yeah.
understand. I get it if you're trying to give people who had some unfortunate mishap another try, maybe so fewer people will protest if there's a fall or something in an 800 because there's like, okay, just run this other round and then you can get through and it's no big deal. But you're guaranteeing everybody gets to run twice, which maybe that's the point of it. I just was this ever a problem? Were people really mad about the small Q qualifiers? I think most people just sort of accepted it as part of the sport. Because ultimately, what you could do is you could just make everything an automatic qualifier. And if you're in a tough heat, that's the break. Sometimes you're in a tough bracket in sports. Sometimes you get drawn into the group of death in the World Cup. That's just how it goes. You got to figure out how to be top 4, top 5, whatever it is in your heat. We're just not going to do time qualifiers. That's the other solution to it. And that would keep the amount of races. You're adding races, but then you're adding a race with people who weren't fast enough to make it through the first time. It's interesting.
Or they were smart enough to tank the first time so they could be fresh.
But the people who are they're still running an extra race. I think the incentive is going to be to get through the first time and not have to go to this heat. I understand your
But
point.
not
If you're already out of
you
it,
just
then why keep trying? But if you're out of it in the first round, I don't think you're a medal contender.
Well, if something
So you're
goes
just
because what
wrong,
keeping
if you
people around.
purposely take
like
you
if
purposely
anything
take
goes
yourself out
wrong,
of it?
right?
What's that
Say it
called?
again.
I'm just saying, like, if anything goes wrong, if you like have a misstep or like you stumble at
Yeah,
all, like you'll just stop running, right? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
that's what
you
Gordon's
shut it
saying.
down
Yeah,
and then
yeah, from
lick your
yes,
wounds and
from
come
that
back.
yeah, from that perspective, I understand it. But I'm saying people are still going to run hard because they're going to want to avoid running an extra heat, especially something like the 200 is probably going to be on the same day. I would guess if you're skipping around to the 1500 would be huge advantage over other people. Again, I just don't know what the issue was with the old system that this is trying to fix. Do you know?
No. I mean, they probably think the average viewer doesn't know what a small Q qualifier is, like qualifying on time. They're telling themselves that's the reason why our sport's not growing because the fans don't know what qualifying on time means. If
Yeah,
we just make this one change, everyone's going to love our sport.
I don't know.
It's classic track and field thinking. Oh, if we just
I
do
don't
this
know.
one thing, everyone's going to love it. I think that's why they
I
think
don't
that it's
know
confusing.
though. Times are pretty
I
easy
mean,
to
if you,
understand. When you need
well,
to run
if you think
faster
about it
than
though,
20.5.
yeah,
What's that
well,
say,
if you
Colton? What are you
notice
highlighting? Oh,
during Worlds this year, they didn't do that because they kept on putting up your time behind the leader as opposed to what
oh,
you actually ran. So actually finding time qualifiers at Worlds this past year was actually kind of hard to do.
yeah. Don't get
Remember?
me started on that. They did have the small Q line, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I think. Listen, if you're talking holistically about track in general, I think what you need, if you do want to make it more popular or more interesting, you need the best people running more often, not the middle of the pack to the back of the pack people running more often. And that's what this is going to create. We'll see.